The cork, or as everyone in the industry calls it, the closure, is something that you spend a lot of time focused on because it's one of those things that it's very tactile in terms of it's in your hand. So it's one of those things I think is really, really important when you're talking about a premium whiskey. But also there's issues to consider about how it might work in terms of longevity and other things like that. You have the cheapest end of the spectrum is things like this, screw top. Personally, no place in a premium whiskey. And then we have something that you see on quite a few Japanese whiskies is a plastic screw top, which I don't know where that's come from, but personally, no place on a premium whiskey in my view. And then one of the trends that went on for a long time in spirits was these synthetic corks, I think because they were more durable and people were interested in them. So there's an example there of a synthetic cork. Personally, no place in a premium whiskey. In a premium whiskey, really, what we're dealing with, in my view, and I know you can have your views on this one, there's probably loads of benefits and reasons why it isn't, but natural cork for me is the only way you can go with a premium whiskey like Three Ridings. So how do you go about doing that in terms of process? One of you got the design. So once you've made your choice that you want natural cork, then you can look at things like you can either go agglomerated natural cork, which is like that, where it's little pieces from waste material that's been put back together. It's quite a good sustainable choice because it means you use all the pieces of the cork from the tree, or you're into full proper natural cork, which is a piece of the cork tree. If I can get that to focus, there we go. You can see that is a true natural cork, which is basically a piece of bark from the tree. So you've made that choice, and the other thing you then need to think about is what's on the top. So there's loads of choices, as you can see. There's these ones here. Personally, again, I think from a premium standpoint, natural wood is what you want. So you've got wood, and then you've got an infinite number of shapes, choices of engraving, of decoration, of wood stains or whatever. So how have we gone about doing what we've done with Three Ridings? So going back to the process with David Jenkins, our designer, we had an idea of what we wanted. So for example, we had this way back, we had this shape here, and this was done in black to help us sort of see the angles of the bottle and how it would look in light. So we had this idea of basically we wanted to have a very proud thing at the top of the bottle and really sort of giving you a really great thing to grab hold of. And then we're going to feature the Three Ridings on the outside of that, and then ultimately the choice is what do we put on the top. So the process you go through is like all these other things, is you then get a sample made. So we had a wooden sample made, and this was our wooden sample here, and you can see you've got the north, east, west ridings featuring on there. And originally we had the idea that we're going to put the Ella's Farm distillery logo on the top, but that was before we had landed on the name of Three Ridings and started deciding what we were going to do with this whiskey. When we started the whiskey almost 4 years ago, laying it down with Theakston, it was our whiskey project, and at some point in time we were going to come up with a name. So we're working on this, and then we came up with the idea. Well, I should give kudos to Richard Bradbury, the MD at Theakston. He actually came up with a name, and we'll sit down and have a chat with him just to recount that story, because it's a great story about him basically out walking and just had that eureka moment of a name. So we have the wooden sample, and then when we were then thinking about, okay, how do we premiumize, and then how do we choose? So with the engraving on there, this wood is obviously an unstained natural wood, so it doesn't really fit with the rest of the parts of what's coming together on the whiskey. So what we're going to end up with is, in all likelihood, a stained wood like this one, and that is like a chocolate coloured staining of the wood. Then your choices come down to what do you do with the engravings. So then you have the choices. Do you do the laser etching after the staining, and then you get this effect, or do you do it before the staining, in which case you get this effect? Now, I personally really like that effect. I think that is just lovely little premium touch point. We then obviously continued on the thinking of what else can we do. So with the idea originally, we had as I mentioned, we had the idea of Ella's Farm sitting on the top of that as an etching. And then we had the idea of essentially putting, adding some weight to the stopper and putting a metal coin on the top. And then we thought, well, that'd be a very, very nice premium touch. So we had a sample made, and you can see here, this is just with a plain metal disc, just to give a sense of what's the weight of this going to be and how is it going to feel. And then we've had laser printing done, or 3D modeling done to essentially create an idea of what that would look like. So we've created this as basically a 3D modeled sample, and you can see there with the Three Ridings logo in it. And this is just a very simple 3D printed object. To get to the point of having this cork with that metal disc in exactly the right metal, with this right shape, with the right design, with the staining done correctly, with the etching done at the right point in time, is a big process. So one of the things that you learn in this process is this phrase called tooling. And tooling is basically the capital cost you have to incur to create something that is bespoke. So every element, nearly every single element, in fact every element of Three Ridings is bespoke. So the bottle is bespoke. So there's a tooling cost to create the molds. The closure is a bespoke closure. So we have a tooling cost to create the coin in the top. We have a tooling cost to create this shape, this structure, the laser etching of what we need to do, to then set up of exactly how we're going to do that. With the labels, you have tooling because the cut of the label, the foiling that you put on it, the embossing and everything all needs parts of machinery essentially created to enable you to have that. So we have all of these stages along the process. You have to incur all this cost to essentially create these items to essentially make it. But I'm really excited. We're not there. We'll see where we go with samples, and these will be coming at us soon. But ultimately, a lot of our foiling and our metallics that we have will be based around this color here, which is called it's like a rose gold. So in essence, this coin will end up being a very nice rose gold color, which will then match the labels and the foils that we've got on the boxes and other things like that. So a lot of work goes into essentially, basically, the thing that you pop out of the bottle before you have a drink. So when you next have a look at one and you next pull out a premium whiskey, just have a look and see how much work and thought has gone into it. I think we've done an extraordinary amount going into what we have with Three Ridings. It is for me, a really important part of a whiskey bottle is this moment of how your hand touches it, and then ultimately the quality of what you have there. If you look back at all the oldest whiskies in the world, they all use natural corks. So there are some things where I'm sure there's a technical argument of why a screw top is probably better, or even a plastic screw top, or these synthetic ones are better. Sometimes you have to stick with tradition, but then with that tradition you have to mould your own place and your own innovations. That is one of the beauties of English whiskey, is we get to do this so often in terms of we can be really creative, but also then make sure we're looking at the traditions and the history of the past of how best we can actually create a product that ultimately, when you get it in your hands, you look at it, you can appreciate it, you can touch every component of it and really understand the extraordinary amount of work that's gone in to create that bespoke item that ends up in your hand and pouring and holding that beautiful whiskey as you enjoy your Three Ridings. So follow along on not at Three Ridings, at Chris Builds a Whiskey. and you can see all the other parts. So we've got things to go through in terms of labels, the certificates, the boxing, the outer boxing, the collector boxing. All these things are coming at us. So please drop a follow, but also drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts. See what you think. I mean, maybe this doesn't matter, and we're spending an extraordinary amount of time and effort to essentially create something that you don't really care about. But I really care about this thing, so hopefully you do too, but also give us your views. And I can't wait to show you when we get the real samples in, once we've spent the money on the tooling and got the things produced.